Hey, welcome back. I'm Steve, he who knits, and today I just wanted to do a quick little WIP video. Some of these things that I'm going to show you, I told you I was working on. I may have even showed you the beginning stages of some of these projects, but I wanted to bring it back around. And the first thing I'm going to do here is not really even a WIP. I actually finished both of these. I have two little boys at home, a 5 and a 6-year-old, and I decided that they should get really cool hats for this fall and winter season. And so I went about making hats. The first one we have is Star Wars. This is actually, it was called the Empire hat because it's all the bad guys. It's got a stormtrooper here. It's got the Death Star down there. Of course, Darth Vader on this side. And you can see this part didn't turn out that great, or that visible anyway. The two lightsabers, there's a red and a blue. And for some reason it just didn't show that well, maybe because they were just single pieces of yarn going the whole way up there. But if I hold it up close, you can get a better idea of exactly what the lightsabers, yeah. See, it was a little bit tough with this and this gauge of yarn. This was an adult size pattern, and I didn't really want to mess with it too much because I didn't want to mess with the characters and the way they would look. There's a yellow finishing. Just in case you're wondering, I found out that I prefer the 3-needle bind off. That seems to work really well. I like it for anything where I'm closing up the top of a hat, the toe of a sock, the heel of a sock, anything like that. So that's what you get there. I find it very secure. It's not messy at all. It's nice and clean and tight. Give you a peek behind the, of course you can see that whenever you knit something like this, most likely you're going to end up with a lot of stuff behind the curtain on the other side. But it's a hat, so it doesn't really matter. So Star Wars hat, again, it's pretty big, but you know, kids, they'll grow into it. So that was one of them. And the other one is a dinosaur fanatic. If you have about 6 hours, he will gladly tell you about any dinosaur that you have ever heard of or never heard of. And chances are he's right. But I found this dinosaur hat pattern, and I believe it was titled Roar. So here it is. It's all 2 shades of green, which I was a little skeptical about, but you can see the dinos do show up. You have the Diplodocus here on the bottom, or the Brachiosaurus, or whatever you think it looks like the most. And then, of course, on top all the way around, you have T-Rex, king of the dinos. And I haven't trimmed these up yet or woven them in or anything, but you can see it's the same. It's basically the same dino the whole way around the hat. Again, the top, as you can see, I finished that off with the 3-needle bind off. I like that. The inside of this one is a lot cleaner than the other one, but again, just 2 colors here, whereas the other one, I think I was using 7 colors, and I was probably working with maybe up to 4 at a time. And I found that I'm pretty comfortable with that Fair Isle type of knitting, so it didn't really bother me that much. I had to make a few adjustments when the hat was done, actually. No matter how hard you try and you do your best, when you're working with that many strands, and you can get a peek at the inside here, it does get messy. No matter how good you are, you can twist up. And I know that there are tips and tricks out there to make this a little bit cleaner on the inside, but I actually ended up having to go back in and do a little snip trim up. Basically, I felt like a surgeon. I was snipping and then reattaching some things here and there. So you'll never know. By looking at the outside of the hat, you would never know. But it was just a little tight before, because sometimes when you're carrying yarn all over the place, when you're doing this style of knitting, it can suck things in and get it a little bit tighter than it's supposed to be. So I found that happening here. I fixed it. So this is the adult size hat. This was supposed to be the child size pattern. I followed it. I followed it exactly the right way, and I still ended up with a huge hat. This one, I mean, if we're being honest here, it's a pretty big hat, right? It's cool. I like it. I'd probably wear that. But that's supposed to be child. I don't know. So here's the Star Wars hat on me. We'll see if we can get Darth Vader in the picture up there at the top. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so either way, those are my two hats. And I really like doing these, so I may do another hat each for the boys. We'll see. There are a lot of cool patterns out there, so I might give that a shot. But I'm continuing on with the WIP stuff. I did post a video a little while back about trying circular needle versus double pointed needle for a pair of socks. Well, here is my first sock. This was my double pointed needle. By the way, this is that Bad Sheep yarn, and I did tell you about that, I think, in that previous video. There's a really close-up, a nice look at that yarn. Great yarn, beautiful yarn. And this is just a pretty basic sock. And again, I did the toe with that 3-needle bind-off technique, and I found none of the problems that I had before when I was trying other techniques to close off the toe. If you've never done a sock before, don't be scared of the heel. It's really not that big a deal. Just follow the directions. But cool sock. I love it. And I went down actually a couple sizes on the needle for this sock weight yarn because I had done one before following the pattern, and with the sock weight yarn, it was just so, it was like so lacy and see-through. But here, it came out really nicely. Working on sock number 2 now, which of course, as I promised, would be the double pointed needles. I can already tell you that I'm not a fan. I avoid them anytime that I can. So if somebody out there has a nice fairy tale to tell me about how amazing circular needles are and why I should be using them and any other good stuff like that, please do so. But I think I'm probably always going to be a double pointed guy in the end. So I'll show you the other sock. I'll show you the pair when they're done. You can see. And then finally, my last WIP here that I've got going on. And I did do a video about this also right before I started. My first cable sweater, my first cable project ever. And I'm into this already. So can't really tell too much from this. This is the back, of course, so there's not really any cabling happening here. And there's the right side. You can see it's just a straight basic knit the whole way. There's the color. And now currently on the needles, I'm working on the front of the sweater, which is where all the cabling is. And even though it's kind of scrunched up on the needles a little bit, you can see how the cabling's coming along. Hold it out in front of my face, but you get a basic idea of how the cabling's coming. Not bad. This is a pretty basic cable, just those two kind of cable sections coming up the middle. Frankly, I'd like a more challenging cable project, and I think with my next one, I will choose something with a more challenging cable setup to it. But I didn't find it complicated. The cable needle didn't really scare me. When I first saw it in the package, I was like, it's kind of weird, but I watched the video. That's how I learned pretty much everything that I've ever done. And it was easy. So working my way up the front of the sweater, don't really anticipate it taking a terribly long time for me to get done with the rest of this, and then of course the sleeves, and then putting it all together. And this one you put it together and then you go back in and pick up stitches around the neck and knit the collar into that. Kind of not something I've done before. I'm familiar with picking up stitches, but I've never done a collar that way, so should be interesting to see how that turns out exactly. But there you go. That's the kind of look at the cables there. That is my WIP video for the day. I thank you for being here, and go ahead, subscribe, like my stuff. Check out Instagram if you'd like to, because I usually put a lot of pictures up there too. Have a great day.